Welcome everyone to this webinar on how to measure your event effectiveness. I am Erica and I'm proud to present this information on behalf of the coalition of partners that is bringing you National Engineering Month in Ontario for 2015. So as you might know, that is OSET, the Ontario Association of Certified Engineering Technicians and Technologists, PEO or Professional Engineers Ontario, as well as Engineers Without Borders Canada and the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers. So we'll get you through this information and off into your evening. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about measuring and the tools that we have available. There are two tools in particular. I'm going to focus on the scorecard and the survey, take you through some next steps and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So first of all, the whole idea of measurement, I think maybe as engineers and technology professionals, we really understand this, but we wanted to really take the time to explain why we're doing it for something like outreach, which we don't really consider part of our normal professional activities. We know we want to measure, we want to learn from what we're doing. We don't just want to do outreach, we want to do great outreach. We want to continue to improve year after year. Our goal and really the broader why of the reason that we're doing all of these events is to change the public perception of engineering and technology, to help shine a light on how rewarding and inspiring and important a career path this can be, whether it's young people who are learning this or grown-up members of the general public that are then going to go out and use their influence to talk to the children that they know. So ultimately, we're shaping the future of our profession, and we want to do it in a way that is strategic, that makes sense, that is optimized, if you will, to be its most effective. Because if it's worth doing right. And I think all of us as professionals take pride in doing high quality work, and we feel that we need to bring that same approach to our outreach. So for that reason, we've introduced a scorecard. This is the second year in a row that we're using a scorecard for our National Engineering Month events, using it to track performance, drive improvement as well. And you can see the little photo that I've got here is of a golf scorecard where we're basically marking down how we do in each sort of section or on each hole of the course, and then measuring that against our target or the par. So that's really, it's a fairly straightforward tool. It's in Excel. It gives you some structure for planning and coordination. Besides the scoring part, you've also got some checklists and some guidelines on how to prepare to get the very best score you can. Gives you some basis for comparison and maybe a little fun, healthy competition with other organizations and chapters. However, we do want to say the main purpose is not to see who can get the highest score, because it is a self-evaluation tool, and we're trusting you to be honest with what it is that you're filling out, that it's accurate, a good representation of what you did. You're not just looking to get the highest score possible. If you want to be in competition with anyone, maybe look to see how you scored last year and see if you can do better than what it was that you did last year. So this is also a good time to have a look at maybe where your scoring wasn't as high as it could have been and how you could improve on it for this year. And finally, just from a campaign management point of view, from our side, we do take this data and we use it to report out to our partner organizations, to potential future partners, to our sponsors who make this campaign possible with the funding that they donate. We need this to show what it is that we're doing and provide that accountability. So we take that information and we think that this, doing it as a scorecard is a much better approach than what we've done in the previous years. We did a post-event survey, which was online. We got the feedback. There were lots of questions. It took too much time. It didn't provide any value to us. And us, that means you, the event organizers, were saying, we don't like this format. We think it's not valuable to us. So we put together this scorecard, and as I mentioned, we rolled it out last year, and we're using pretty much the same tool this year. There are really only a few very small tweaks for this year. So we see that you can use it as both a planning tool and a reporting tool. So that is, it's useful to you before, during, and after the event. It's not just something we throw at you at the last minute. And it's really easy to ensure messaging quality. So I'll talk a little bit in more detail about messaging and the importance of that. You've probably heard me say it before if you've organized a NEM event, but it's a big part of the approach that we take that really sets our campaign apart from others. So the thing about outreach, it's really fun. It's a lot of work to organize, as you all know, but it can be hard to know if we're doing a good job. at the end of our event, when we're tearing down and we're getting ready to clean up and go home, how can we know that our event has worked? We could talk to each other. We could sort of see how we feel. We could look at our budget. Did we come in under budget or on budget? That's a good indication. Attendance numbers as well. Did we get the amount of people that we expected? Those are good indicators, but they're really not enough to know if we've ultimately succeeded in our goal of shifting the public perception and inspiring the next generation of engineering and technology professionals. It could take years to figure that out, whether the kids or young people that come to our event today are ultimately going to go sign up and become engineers and engineering technologists. It could take 10 years to figure that out. So we need something that's a little more immediate, and we also want to know, sort of from an anecdotal or experience base, lots of people have been doing this for a long time. There's certain things they can just read from the room, and they can just feel or they know from previous years. We definitely welcome those anecdotes and those experience-based pieces of feedback that you have for us as well to tell us how you're doing. But we felt it was important to bring in an objective tool that we could use, that we can put some data to it, we can put some numbers to it, and go from there. So raising awareness of engineering and technology really has a lot of immediate benefits to your chapter that are beside what I just talked about with shifting the perception and creating the future of our profession. It also has the potential to bring in more volunteers, because to recruit a volunteer to go work at an outreach event, it's a fun thing. It's finite in its commitment. It's clear what it's about. It's fun. You have the potential to create relationships, build community. There are just many other good reasons to do these outreach activities that make all of your efforts worthwhile. And we know everyone's a volunteer, and we're really grateful for all of the time and energy that you take to do not just an outreach event, but a really good outreach event. There's so much creativity and so much dedication that goes into putting these events together, and we really, really appreciate it. And we see that this scorecard tool is another way that we can support you to make your job easier. So we want to understand the messages that our participants are taking away. We know it's important to get all the logistics right, and we want all of the materials to be there, and we want everyone to be organized and know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is get a certain message. We are sending out a signal, if you like, and we want to make sure that that same signal and that same information, that same understanding is being received by the participants, and that they're taking it home with them. So these are the messaging guidelines that we took from some research that was done by the National Academy of Engineers about the most effective ways to talk about engineering. And if you've been involved with National Engineering Month before, you know that we use these messaging guidelines very frequently. The first one is really all about diversity. It's about talking about the way that engineers work in so many different fields, in so many different disciplines, in so many different sectors of society, and they solve so many different challenges and different problems. Today in the 21st century, we have complex challenges and problems to solve. They are an interweaving of human factors and technology factors and geological factors and economic factors. There's so much to think about. We really do need people that have all kinds of different strengths in their personalities, who have different ways of looking at the world, different life experiences. And so we're talking about not just say cultural diversity or ethnic diversity, gender diversity, but also diversity of thought pattern and maybe personality type. We want to see a really strong, vibrant profession that's got room for all kinds of different people in it. And so this is a very important message. If we don't stress anything else, we want to stress, especially to young people, that if you want to be a part of this family, if you want to take this career path, there is a place for you. So we're being very inclusive and very welcoming in our messaging. The second is about shaping the world around us. Again, some people don't really understand what engineering is about or how it works, or technology can be sort of a word that feels very ephemeral to people, feels very sort of abstract, and they don't maybe understand what it really refers to besides, say, a computer or a cell phone. Technology, as we know, is really about so much more than that, and the way it shapes the world around us I personally love posing this to kids that I talk to and saying, well, what was the world like 50 years ago, 60 years ago? What were people doing? What were the things that they used to get their work done and to make their lives better? How did they get around? And how has that changed today? And what might that look like in 60 or 50 or 60 years from now? Do you want to be part of figuring that out? Well, you can, and a great way to do that is become an engineering or technology professional. This is really a cool way to shape the world, way to make a real difference. Applying creativity and imagination to turn ideas into reality. I think sometimes it's very easy to jump into the details of what we do, whether we work in a certain business or a certain industry, or we work for a certain company on a certain product. We get very focused on those details sometimes, but it's important to remember when we're talking to non-engineers, to young people or to the public, we want to speak about it in a way that they can really access and understand. And I think turning ideas into reality is just such a great way. Everybody can sort of picture what that means, and it's true no matter what type of engineering you're doing. You do have to apply creativity. You do need to be able to think out of the box sometimes. Imagination and innovation and working to push the envelope, bring things to the next level, or do more with less. I know we all sometimes have challenges in our projects to manage to a certain budget and to be able to get creative with our resources and finding ways to do things. So that's another way to talk about it in a way that people might not expect. They might not think about creativity and imagination as having much to do with engineering, but really it does. And finally, we have this fourth messaging guideline about health, safety, happiness, and comfort. And just knowing that engineering and technology are not disconnected from the world, even though to some people engineering and technology might be a bit of a mystery. They might seem sort of disconnected from their everyday experience. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's all around them all the time, and it's because people are working on solutions for people. It's very much that type of human-based profession, and engineers and technologists make a world of difference. So you might know that making a world of difference is the slogan for this year's campaign, and that's happening all the way across Canada for National Engineering Month. So anywhere you can bring those themes in, we definitely encourage you to do so, and you can capture that with your with the survey. So finally, here we go. Here is the scorecard. It will help you plan your event, help you measure the event effectiveness, report on it back to us, and it'll give you that conversation you're probably having anyway amongst your team. Hey, how did it go? What worked? What didn't? How could we do things better? Can we gather some examples? Or we will gather examples once we get your completed scorecard to pull, hey, that's a great idea. Let's share that out with the rest of the community. We have a group of almost 1,000 people across Ontario that are organizing events. And we want to make sure that everyone is learning from each other. We really think of it as a community of people that all have a common goal of inspiring and informing people just what engineering and technology can do. So finally, and this is important, I know, especially to any treasurers or chapter chairs or club presidents that we have listening to this right now, sending in your completed scorecard will unlock the remaining event funding from us, from the National Engineering Month Committee. So this is something that we put in place to make sure that you have an incentive to give us your completed scorecard so you won't forget. You will remember you will get a check for half your funding up front. Once we get your completed scorecard, you get the other half. That's just the way that we've set it up to make sure that you don't forget to put in your scorecard. Also inspires you to get it done in a reasonable amount of time. So here's what the scorecard looks like. It's an Excel template, and if you haven't already received one via email, then you should in the next couple of days. Please do let me know if you haven't. How does the scorecard work? Well, it's got 3 sections and a point system. So the basic elements are worth a total of 70 points. The advanced elements are worth a total of 30 points. And then we have a few bonus elements that are worth a total of 15 points. So the formula is pretty basic. There's an actual and then there's what did you plan. So what did you actually score? This is a score you give yourself. Remember, we don't do this for you. This is something that you sit with your team and figure out how to score using the tool and the rubric that we'll give you, the guidelines. And you score that against what you planned. So first of all, here are the basics. And I want to say that if this is feeling a little bit complicated to you, if you've never organized before, or if you're feeling like, I really don't have as much support as I wish I did, I'm never going to cover all this, just focus on the basics. These are really the must-haves. So the messaging, attendance, budget, media, and improvement. And I'll explain what each one of those means. So first of all, the message alignment. Did people understand the message? This is what I was talking about before with sending a signal out. There's a certain takeaway. We want people to get into their heads. We want them to walk out the door feeling, wow, there is a place for me, or I did not know I did not know that the engineering was really all about creativity and imagination. Whatever it is that you want them to take away, make sure that they're getting it. So beforehand, you already identified which messages you wanted to deliver. During, you're going to deliver some. You're going to deliver the messages, and you'll be putting those together either in the examples that you give or the explanation that your volunteers give in their presentation. Could be something to do with the theme of the activity. You want to administer the messaging survey, which I'll explain to you nearer to the end. Afterward, you're basically going to look through the surveys that you got. It's a piece of paper that they fill out at the end. You collect it from them before they go. Then you have them to look at, and you record the alignment. So here are those here are those messaging guidelines from your event application that you might remember. Question 13 was, what messages will your event or activity deliver? So basically here are those same messaging guidelines that I just went through with you, and here's the little piece of the survey. So let's say we were trying to get across messaging guideline number 2, which is the creativity and imagination. Oh, sorry, that's number 3. You see this one, gender female. Well, that's good to know for the diversity piece, and I'll talk about that later. The 3 words that describe engineering: creative, unique, and hands-on. All right, that's great. That means they got the message about creativity. So you'd score yourself positively on that one. Does engineering have an effect on our safety? So this is messaging guideline number 4 about health, safety, and happiness. This person says yes, because engineers solve problems. If there's a problem that concerns our safety, they will solve it. Pretty accurate statement. Sounds like they got the message. So here's the rubric that we'd like you to use. If they got all the messages, that's pretty much 20 points. If they got some, count yourself 5, so it's up to a maximum of 20 points. If they didn't get any of the messages, if you're not picking those up from the survey responses at all, then you award yourself 0. If you sent some messages or they received some messages that you didn't intend to receive but were positive, then you give yourself 2 points for those, and any negative unintended messaging, -4. So you sort of see how that works. You flip through the surveys and total up your points, and then give yourself a final score out of 20. So moving on to the number of attendees, this one's worth 10 points. So you'll notice messaging is worth 20. That's our way of telling you this is important. The messages that they take away are ultimately what makes the impact of the event itself. The number of attendees is good, and obviously the more attendees we have, the better. However, we do know that we need to plan properly. If you're planning to have 50 people show up, and you plan accordingly with the number of volunteers and space and prizes and things, and then you have 200 show up, that's probably not going to be a very high quality engagement experience for people. So we don't necessarily want to say go for as many people as possible. We want to say plan as accurately as possible. So you're going to set a goal for the attendance, which most of you already did in your event funding application. Promote your event, and then count or estimate your number of attendees, and then afterwards take that percentage of the goal achieved versus planned. And if you're on target, plus or minus 5, give yourself 10 points, and so on and down. So just how accurate you are in being able to plan is the next piece. Budgeting, this is pretty straightforward. You've already created a budget, you submitted it to us, we gave you the go-ahead on how much funding we're able to give you. There's not a lot that you need to do. You basically spend that money to prepare for the event, and then afterwards you're going to end up compiling your expenses and reporting actually spent versus planned. So just a note, if you do go over your budget, we are not able to issue further funds. If you receive $400 for your event and you end up spending $500, for example, we can only send you $400. We're not able to complement any overages. On the positive side, if we award you $400 of NEM funding for your event and you only spend $300 and you're still able to deliver that same scope of the event, that $100 is yours to invest in other outreach activities as you see fit. We don't scale back on you. However, that's just a note that you do need to still follow through and deliver on the full scope of the event as you planned it on your budget. If you find a way to do the same amount with less money, that's fantastic. You can absolutely use that money for other things, but we don't want to see people just looking at trying to come under budget and not delivering the event as planned. So here's the rubric for budget. We use our sponsors' money very diligently and very carefully, so that's why we wanted to make sure that this was one of the basic elements that people were aware of. Media. Now, this one's important because we put all of this time and effort into putting in a great event, and then if we don't share it with anybody after the fact, it's almost like it didn't happen. So we want videos, we want photos, we want people, we've got the surveys, we want people writing down quotes of what was said, we want write-ups, we want to see as much evidence as possible after the fact to spread the impact of the event that you're having and making sure that we're not just doing it sort of a one-shot deal within those four walls and then that's it. So beforehand, we do recommend that you invite any local media outlets. Maybe you want to invite some bigger media outlets too. I know some people like to invite dignitaries, local politicians and such to their events. That tends to attract media attention. That's great. Anything you can do to draw attention to the messages that we're sending and the good work that we're doing. This is maybe a little bit counterintuitive for some people who prefer to just do good work and keep their head down, but this is not a time to be shy. This is a time to be proud of what we're doing and to bring as much attention to it as possible. So we do recommend that you designate a media coordinator on your team. So this is someone who's not in charge of anything else except taking pictures, except coordinating media people, putting videos together. Whatever it is that you've decided in your plan is what they're going to do. Otherwise, it just becomes one of those things that everybody forgets to do, and then, oh, the event's over, and there's no evidence that it ever happened. We don't want to see that happen to you. So this is the media coordinator then that would be taking the photos, taking the videos, posting them by social media in real time is ideal, and helping provide interviews to local media, coordinating that. The write-up process, making sure everyone's got the right spelling of everyone's name or the photo release forms, that kind of thing. We do have a standard photo release form, especially when you're photographing children. You want to be careful of that. We have that up on the website. And then afterwards, creating and posting an event write-up. You can put that on your chapter website. You can send it to us, and we'll put it on the NEM website. You can do both. We are very, very happy to get those write-ups when they happen. We also love to see your event pictures and videos. As I said, you can post them yourself through your social media channels or up on your own website, and we will just share the link, or you can send them to us and we'll put a write-up together. Either works. We're very flexible, and we do have a Dropbox where you can put all of those photos. So that's media. And basically, we're just going to say give yourself 2 points for each one of these that you do, up to a total of 10. So here's where I'll just draw a bit of a bookmark to say if that's as much as you can handle, the basic elements, that's great. Those are really good. Oh, there's one more actually that I forgot to mention, which is about improvement. So there's a question about what were your goals to improve over last year, and then did you achieve them? So there's a fifth question there. If you have done an event before, if you've never done a National Engineering Month event before, then you can't ask yourself about improvement. But now we can move into the things. If you're feeling pretty good, you're feeling confident with the basics, and you want to take it to the next level, then we encourage you to look at these advanced elements. So this is really what we say is about taking a good event and making it great. So the things we've identified that you can do in order to achieve that are the social media aspect, collaboration, and that refers to collaborating with multiple organizations in your community, participant engagement, and promotion of diversity. So I'll explain each one of those. Social media, I know a lot of you are very competent Twitterers and Facebookers and Instagrammers. We've also expanded onto LinkedIn this year, so we're very excited about that. We really want to engage and create some more buzz about the campaign amongst our professional community. Beforehand, you need to set up your social media platforms. If you haven't done so already for your chapter or your organization, and then engage with us on them. You'll see this hashtag NEM 2015. We're at NEM Ontario. Please feel free to tweet at us or send something to us or put it on our wall. We're very happy to see that, and we will retweet everything that we see that you put with this hashtag in it. And if you're not sure what any of that means, we will be running another workshop that's all about social media. So it's a little bit of a foreign thing to some people, but once you get onto it, you'll find it's a really fast, fun, and easy way to communicate. During, you want to post photos, videos, quotes, as I said, to social media channels. Afterwards, you're going to upload your footage and share your success stories, and even engage with other event organizers. So that's a really good way to create that community, and it's fun. You know, I know we sometimes see each other at various events, and sometimes we talk to other chapters, but a lot of the time we forget to. So this is actually a fun and easy way to make that happen through our social media. So the way we're saying to score that is to give yourself 2 points for each of the posts that you write with hashtag NEM 2015. So just remember NEM 2015, throw that in there, and you'll be good. Collaboration is another one of the advanced elements, and what you want to do is to say, well, if I can put an event together and promote it to a certain audience of people, what happens if I start to reach out to, not just to other individuals, but to other organizations? We only have so much bandwidth or so much budget to promote our event. What if we get strategic about it and don't just reach out to individual people, but also reach out to organizations that are interested in working with us? So here's an example from one of our event organizers, Rose, who wanted to put together a team of volunteers. This is from last year, NEM 2014, and she reached out to the U of T Engineering. She brought them in well before her event. This is a tweet that went out in January to help them co-deliver the event with her. So putting together an invitation for collaboration can be as simple as a tweet. It doesn't have to be through social media, but it certainly can be. You're also welcome to dip into your virtual Rolodex, send emails, make phone calls, people that you know that could help you either promote or organize or deliver your event. And afterwards, you want to talk to those partners and see how it went. So great example of collaboration. Again, this is Rose working with Girl Guides. She designed 2 all-new workshops, Mission to Mars and Don't Wake Mom. And when you team up with organizations in your community, you not only get collaboration points, but you also, it saves you so much work of trying to pull together individuals. You're tapping into ready-made audiences, really sort of clumps of people that have already organized themselves into little pods of people that are interested in what you have to offer. So Girl Guides are a great example. Also Boy Scouts, YMCA for targeting youth, looking at professionals, maybe IEEE, Rotary or other volunteer organizations, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, libraries, science centers, museums, or local schools. So here are just a few examples. Next, we've got how do you score yourself on collaboration? We're saying if you invite people, whether they come or not, let's give you 2 points each for everybody you invite, because we can't always control whether other people RSVP yes or no, but if you're reaching out to them and making an effort to build those connections, that can only do good things for you. So that's collaboration. Next advanced element is all about participant engagement, and this is one that's a little bit tricky to measure sometimes, but I think you know it when you see it. It's about having participants that are engaged, they're leaning forward, they're excited about what you're doing, as opposed to, lying back, squirming in their chairs or looking out the window. You want to make sure that what you're doing is you have good information, good, I would say, age-appropriate as well as audience-appropriate explanations. Really think about how you would explain this to someone who has not a clue about your industry or about your profession. How would you break it down into simple terms that are still accurate, but easy to understand for people? And this sometimes takes a little bit of rehearsal, so we encourage you to think about this ahead of time. Another thing you can do is plan little mini games or activities. You could have a challenge, you could have a word scramble, you could have something on social media that people participate in. I know some of you that do bridge building activities or other things where the breaking of the bridges has some downtime in it and you have people sort of sitting around on the floor not doing anything. Maybe you have a booth in the background or a game of some sort that they sort of cycle through that they can use to engage them, and you can use that as a messaging opportunity, a time to plant a seed with them or have conversations or start a discussion depending on who your audience is. You want to ask questions. You don't want to sit there and just lecture at them. Have this be a one-way thing. Provide those games. Maybe it's a video or a social media feed. It's something that you're doing with them during to engage them. And then afterwards, you're more than welcome to keep people's contact information if they're willing to give it to you and they want to hear about next year's event or other things that you're doing, as well as getting volunteers, maybe parents who might be interested in getting involved in some way, maybe going to talk to a school so that you can go in and do workshops there. Lots of opportunities to engage the participants there, so they're feeling a sort of a what's in it for me kind of feeling as well. And again, just look at the number of activities, games, interactive features you have, and this is not the quantity of how many you did, but how well did they work? How much were people, sort of leaned in and intent on what you were doing? Give yourself a 5 if you thought that they were really great and worked really well, and 0 or something in between if you didn't feel that they were that great. And that's, again, a bit subjective, but you sort of can feel it when you can read it from the room when you know that you've got a really great engaged group. So just a few other ideas on what works. You want to have lots of volunteers available to answer questions and engage with the participants. Age and audience appropriate language. We don't want people to walk away from this feeling like, wow, I didn't understand any of that. We don't want them to leave feeling that engineering and technology are complicated and inaccessible and intimidating. We know that it can be fun to show off how complex and interesting things are. That can be something that we as presenters can be really interested in amongst ourselves, but just need to remember the experience for them is really what we're going for here, and we want to make sure they walk away feeling like, wow, that was really cool. I basically understood that, and I felt really inspired and energized by it, and not sort of intimidated. Something we know from cognitive theory is that people learn in all different ways. Some people, looking is enough. Some people really need to hear something. Tactile elements or things that people can touch and play with, those are all really good ways. And the more modes that you have to engage people, the better. So I would say another thing, as I mentioned, depending on who the participants are, this might not work so well with 6-year-olds, but it could work very well with university students or with professionals. Engage them in a conversation. Maybe get some Post-it notes out and get them to brainstorm on something. Have a little side design challenge for them. Get them into small groups and get them to talk about their ideas or come up with something that they then post later or present and share with the rest of the group. Depends on the format of your event, of course, but those are just some ideas that you can use to keep the participants engaged. Next, we have the advanced element of diversity. So this is a really big one. It's a big topic. It can be sort of sensitive and sort of confusing for some people, but I'm going to try and sort of give you our take on it and what we recommend. This is right back to that very first messaging guideline, that we really want to make sure that people, especially people who are underrepresented in the engineering and technology professions today, feel like they are welcome, that they get the message there is a place for me. So any examples that you can give that demonstrate inclusiveness, something that I do when I talk about engineering to kids, as I sometimes do, is that one of the first things I say when I get up in front of the classroom or in front of the group is, can anyone tell that I'm an engineer just by looking at me? And of course, what I'm getting at, what I'm trying to cue them to notice, is the iron ring that I wear on my finger. But sometimes you get some really other interesting responses around, well, no, we didn't know you were an engineer, and we wouldn't expect you to be because we thought all engineers were old men, you know, and that's an interesting conversation, right? And it's a good opportunity for me to say, well, actually, you know, engineers can be all kinds of different people. Women can be engineers, people from all different backgrounds can be engineers, and we want those people to come and be engineers, so, you know, there is a place for you, by the way, kind of thing. If you have the option, if you can access a wide variety of speakers and volunteers so that the role models that the attendees are seeing, that they're seeing in front of them, they can look up and see someone that looks like them, that is ideal. If you can't do that, if you don't have access to that type of diversity within your chapter or your club, then just talk about it. There's no problem there. There's some other more subtle things you can do, like asking questions equally of the girls and boys, and this is something that's been very well documented, especially in that sort of upper middle school and high school level, is that the boys can be very participative and very boisterous and very willing to put themselves out there and answer questions and take risks, and the girls not as much. And it's not because the girls are not as smart or because they don't understand, it's just because they're socialized and they're not as comfortable putting themselves forward. So make sure that you are conscious of that and you make an effort to correct that, because that message can really travel a long way. Using inclusive language and examples, maybe if you have something, you know, an example in your work of some people that you worked with, or a team that was really diverse and it ended up coming up with the best solution ever because you had so many great different perspectives to work together. Don't be afraid, if you've got a good example from your own life, from your own professional work, to share it, and explaining the value of diversity and why it's important to have lots of different thinking styles and perspectives. For example, to get a better design or to have more approaches available to solve a problem. And then afterwards, you can check the results to see if both males and females, obviously other types of diversity as well, although you're not going to have that data, were engaged. Just read that from the room. Are we engaging everyone? Are we speaking to everyone equally in a way that is really sending that message on all levels that, yeah, this isn't just about people who look like this, it's about everybody. And review that messaging with the volunteer team. So how many times in your event, this is our idea of how to score it, how many times did you give a shout out to diversity? Were you careful to use inclusive language? Did you make a conscious choice to communicate the importance of diversity? Let's say 1 point every time you do that, up to a maximum of 5. And I know this is a big topic. It's a sticky one, and it's our best shot at giving you the opportunity to think about this with your team, to be purposeful about being very inclusive and open. It's obviously not something that we can solve easily, but if we all put our heads toward that same topic, that same goal of increasing that diversity and making engineering and technology professions very inclusive, then we can really create a shift. I really do believe that. So that's what we'd like you to do around diversity. Finally, we've got these bonus points. There are 3 different things that you can do worth 5 points each. Sign yourself up for our newsletter, which is available on our website. Quote interesting things said by participants. You're going to know when someone says something that's just so remarkable or so interesting that you'll want to capture it. And sometimes they're just, sometimes it's something someone writes down or something that they said. It's really a great way of sharing the experience of the event with people who are not at the event. And you can promote National Engineering Month as a whole as well. Hashtag NEM 2015 is where it's at. And we encourage you to interact with our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn accounts as well. So that's the scorecard, and basically I want to move into the survey now, which is the tool that you're using to get your messaging score. So it was developed by engineering education researchers at Queen's University. It lets you get responses basically in real time. You're actually getting the attendees to put together their responses at the time, especially good for kids who might not be able to articulate if you were to ask them what it is that they got out of it. It really lets you answer one question: is our message or messages, are they being delivered? It's very simple and quick. It's super fun to read the responses. Some of them are just great. They're very funny and interesting because they sometimes, especially kids, they think in ways that you just never would even suspect. And they're excellent for social media posts as well. So this is basically what it looks like. We don't track information except for gender and age, and then we provide words to describe engineering. That's the first question. So what did you find most interesting? They're very sort of general questions, no right or wrong answers, but this just gives you an example of the things that people say, that the attendees say. So this 13-year-old girl thought that engineering and technology are fun, cool, and very interesting, so that was good. Again, here's a question about, does engineering and technology affect how healthy people are? Yes, because some engineers control air pollution, water pollution, and design technology, which help us stay fit. Pretty great example. Sounds like they got it. Some are really about the experience. Like this young attendee who said, I like the rush I had when the gears made the wheels move. And that sort of, that aha moment, that wow, I made it and it works, that was so cool. That's the type of moment, the type of inspiration that can really bring somebody back and broaden their idea of what they thought they could do. So that's a really cool example, I thought. And then I like this one here too about, you fail many times, but then you finally get it right. Is that not ever the truth? So a few other examples: be creative, help people, have fun. Pretty cool. That's actually 5 words, but that's okay. Making stuff, solving problems, and helping change the world. And finally, this one's the home run. This has got to be my favorite here. I might become an engineer. This is really pretty much what we do all about this. So what did the attendees think of the activity? This person thought it was great because it wasn't just a sit down, it was kinesthetic and I was walking around. There's a very astute young person here that noticed what it was that we put into designing. Do you think engineering has an effect on our safety? Yes, absolutely, because a well-engineered product is depended on for our safety, just like that bridge. Excellent. I think someone probably told the story of the iron ring here. If engineers don't make something correctly, it could be the difference between life and death. Oh, okay. So any unintended messaging, one workshop in particular thought that we were focusing more on hunger issues, and that other engineers, if they're just working on hunger, then they might not be able to work on safety as well. So this was some unintended messaging that came through. And then we also had examples of unintended messaging. And I will admit right here, this is something that a teacher in one of my workshops said. She remarked to us about inclusiveness of language. And I think it was even me that said it, without thinking about it. I said, okay, guys, you guys talked about manpower, he, she. So it can be pretty difficult to watch every single word that we say. But again, if we make an effort and really try and be conscious about the message that we're sending, if we're just saying, guys, are the girls feeling excluded? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know for sure, but we want to really make every effort that we can to make sure everyone feels included. So that was something I really took to heart, and I now really try not to say guys when I get up in front of a mixed gender group so that everybody feels that I'm addressing them equally. Are we educating the public about engineering and technology? What did you learn today that you didn't know before? Helps in harvesting food, getting water, and many other things you didn't expect it helps with. So again, this survey, you're probably going to get 1 per attendee. As I said, it's a piece of paper. You download it from the website. You can print it out, give out as many or as few as you want. It's really for your information. We do want you to use the survey. We don't want you to just decide on your own what the messaging score is, because the whole point of looking for that messaging score is to have that user feedback. So we want you to fill out your scorecard, submit it via email no later than May 29th, 2015. So we have previously been a little bit more lenient on that. We're really trying to be clean with our books so that everything that happens in the 2015 campaign is finished up by the end of May. By the time we get to June and July, we're already starting to think about the next round of the next campaign. So we really want to make sure that that you send in your scorecards in good time. And another note, as I said, you will receive your second funding installment when we receive your completed scorecard. So hopefully that's quite clear. We've now gone through the basics, the advanced, the bonus, and there's now just one more tab for you to look at here, which is the projected order for 2016. So this is similar to last year. Again, we'd just like you to fill in for us what is the probable quantity of these items that you would like for next year's campaign. This is not binding. Just a guess is helpful. It lets us set our budget and set our sponsorship fundraising targets so that we can meet that demand. And we think that we're going to come pretty close to meeting everyone's demands for merchandise this year. We also instituted something that was a little different this year. We put a cap on the number of t-shirts that we're subsidizing, simply because our campaign is growing so big. It's a really good problem to have. We can't afford to subsidize large quantities, 200, 300 t-shirts per event. We did cap it at a smaller number. But again, this is us looking forward to 2016 already, and asking for your comments and feedback about whether you got as many as you wanted in 2015. We do our very best to meet all of the demand for merchandise, for t-shirts, for posters, for pens, for sponsored merchandise, all of the things that we have. We try and get them out to you in the quantity that's most useful to you, not too much, not too little. Just as a note, last year we had the Rubik's Cubes. The year before that it was the robot pens. This year it's going to be headphones. They're going to be the earbud type headphones with a little NEM logo on them. And those are being distributed all across Canada. So here are some next steps just to recap some of the dates that I mentioned. You're going to receive your scorecard by email if you haven't already. Most of those went out at the end of January. A few of them were sent out at the beginning of February. If you didn't get one, please let me know right away. Use the checklists to plan. That's in January and February. Receive your event merchandise the week of February 23rd, so that's next week as of this particular recording. We're going to be packing everything up and sending it out to you this week, so you'll get it next week. Downloading the photo release form and the survey, you can do that anytime as of February 25th when we'll have everything up and ready in its most updated format. Deliver your event in March. All throughout the month we're having our events going on, and then we're going to do a wrap-up webinar, just as a heads up, a week of April 6th. So we will send you the information that you need for that if you'd like to attend that and see how the campaign went. And as I mentioned, we absolutely advocate get the scorecard done as soon as your event happens. Next day, if possible. All you have to do is sit with your team or the next meeting that you're having right after the event happens. You're probably going to sit down and have a chat about how the event went anyway, the little water cooler thing. You might as well have the scorecard in front of you and record off the scores as you do it. That way it's all in one. There's a conversation and writing down the data, and then send it over to us, and we'll make sure that you get the rest of your funding. So that's all I had. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are online, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. What you're looking for, the handle is NEM Ontario, and the hashtag is NEM2015. So thank you for participating in tonight's webinar. I am now going to take